PMP accreditation is probably the most recognized brand in the discipline of project management. The Project Management Institute has worked hard to gain recognition of the brand and have succeeded to the point that PMP accreditation is a requirement for many project management jobs, and has also succeeded in spreading recognition of the brand across most industries. Not only is PMP accreditation a criteria for hiring a project manager, it has also become a requirement for many project managers already in place. Where it is not a requirement for managing projects, it will mean increased earning power for those acquiring it. For these reasons, passing the PMP exam is important to today's project manager. There are ways to improve your score on the exam, and that's the purpose of this talk. I want to make it clear that these tips aren't a substitute for the hard work necessary to pass the PMP exam. There is no substitute for studying and understanding the best project management practices that the exam is based on. But my tips will help you leverage your knowledge to get the best possible score on the exam. Passing the exam is the final step in a journey to acquire the PMP accreditation, and candidates must meet other criteria dealing with experience and training before applying to sit the exam. You can read about these criteria on PMI's website at www.pmi.org, and I'll be discussing the training portion of the criteria a little later. Before we get to the tips, there are a few things you should know about the PMP exam. It's a multiple choice exam. Each question has 4 possible answers. Unlike some multiple choice exams, the PMP exam does not deduct marks for incorrect answers. The exam is composed of 200 questions, and over 40% of these questions are what the PMI call situational questions. These questions present you with a project management problem or situation and require you to choose the answer that will best address the problem posed by the question. These questions don't seek a right answer, rather they require you to choose the solution that best addresses the problem. The answers will most likely include more than one correct one. You have to decide which of the correct answers will best address the problem. The PMP exam is given by a third-party vendor who specializes in exams, under contract to the PMI. They use a software application to administer the exam, and this application has a couple of features which can improve your exam score if used properly. One of these is called Mark for Review, which allows you to identify a question whose answer you're not sure of. This feature allows you to revisit those questions at the end of the exam or at any time you choose. The second feature revisits all unanswered questions at the end of the exam. I'll take you through the best strategies to take advantage of these features as I go through the exam tips. Do not attempt to write the exam fresh from a PMP exam preparation training course. The only exception to this is when the course includes an attempt at the PMP exam. A good PMP exam preparation course provider will tell you to do more reading and practice exam questions. They should also direct you to training products specifically designed for the purpose. Online or software-based training products such as 3.0 Project Solutions ACID or Rita Mulcahy's PMP exam prep system come with the training materials which provide you with your 35 contact hours of project management training, plus the exam preparation materials that get you ready to pass the exam. Relax. PMI does not want you to fail the exam. They do want to ensure you have grasped the best practices captured in the PMBOK, but they also fine-tune their exam to ensure an acceptable pass ratio. The best way to ensure that you're relaxed when you take the exam is to get a good night's sleep before the exam and leave yourself plenty of time to get to the exam location. If you have lots of time to kill before the exam starts, spend it doing something to take your mind off the exam. Read a book or do a crossword puzzle. There are a few formulas covered in the best practices. These are mainly in the areas of performance index calculation and net present value calculation. Memorize these formulas for the exam, and when you get into the exam room, write them down on the scratch pad that will be provided to you before starting the exam. you'll find it's much easier to recall the formulas in the absence of the pressure an exam question may cause. When you encounter a question that calls for the use of a formula, look it up on your scratch pad. Answer all 200 questions. Even if you don't think you know the correct answer, even if the question makes no sense at all to you, answer it. You're not penalized for wrong answers, so answering a question can only increase your chances of success. It can't decrease it. As you take the first pass through the exam, skip those questions that you don't think you have the knowledge to answer, so that you make sure you answer all the questions whose answers you are sure of. Then, when you get to the last question, use the exam feature that allows you to revisit all the questions you didn't answer. Make full use of the exam software features. When answering questions that you're unsure of, make sure you mark it for review. Then go back at the end of the exam and revisit each of the marked questions. You'll find that you'll learn as you answer the exam's 200 questions, and the answer to a question towards the end of the exam will provide you with insight into a previous question. For example, if the answer to this question is B, and it is, then the answer to the previous question must be C. Marking the question for review allows you to quickly identify the question and answer it correctly. Don't hesitate to revisit questions you've already answered. In fact, that's what the Review Marked Questions feature is for. There is a myth that you increase your chances of a wrong answer in a multiple choice question if you revisit it. That's false. You'll run across situations described in the previous tips which make revisiting your answer a smart strategy. Investigate the possibility of joining a study group. If you've joined a chapter of the PMI, you'll probably have access to one. Study groups provide access to the knowledge possessed by members of the group, as well as to the knowledge of the group leader. Since that person is likely to be PMP certified, their knowledge of the material and the exam can be very helpful. Of course, the PMI updates their best practices contained in the PMBOK, as well as the exam, regularly. So the more recently the leader sat their exam, the more relevant their knowledge will be. Read the directions for answering each question, as well as the question, carefully. Be sure what those directions require you to do. Choose the best answer, choose the most correct answer, choose the incorrect answer, etc. Read all the choices, even if you believe that the right answer is obvious. If you feel that you're particularly strong in a particular knowledge area, you may want to answer all the questions based on this area first. The PMBOK, the PMI's Bible of Project Management Best Practices, divides these practices up into knowledge areas, and some study products test your knowledge of each area, allowing you to gauge your grasp of each area. Answering 200 multiple choice questions is very fatiguing. Take short breaks at intervals through the exam. Even closing your eyes and clearing your mind for 30 seconds every 50 questions or so can be an effective way of refreshing you. Read the question along with each answer in one flow. You may be able to detect incorrect answers by detecting grammatical errors. This may be effective in guessing at the correct answer. Don't read anything into the question or an answer that isn't stated. We all have a set of beliefs. Yours may influence you to read something into the material that the author didn't intend, so try to avoid this. Try to anticipate the correct answer after reading the question and before reading any of the answers. This will help you to verify you've read the question and directions for answering correctly. If the answer you've anticipated does not appear in the choices, reread both the question and directions carefully. Cover the answers as you read the question to eliminate the possibility of cheating by reading the answers before you can anticipate an answer. If the question contains a negative, such as none, not, never, or neither, the correct answer must be a fact or an absolute. Other answers may be correct statements, but cannot be the correct answer. If the question contains a superlative such as every, all, none, always, or only, the correct answer must be an undisputed fact. Qualifiers such as usually, often, generally, may, or seldom might indicate a true statement. Try labeling the answers with a true or false label in the context of the question. Then look for a pattern in the labels. Remember to consider any modifiers in the question when determining the correct answer. For example, if the modifier is always and there is only one true answer, it should be the correct answer. If the modifier is a word like never and only one answer has a false label, it should be the correct one. Look for keywords in the question that appear in the answer. If only one answer contains the key words, this may be an indication it is the correct one. Be careful here. There is no hard and fast rule dictating that the answer contain any portion of the question. Use this tip in combination with other indicators. If two answers are very similar, called partner choices, this is usually an indication that one of them is the correct answer. Again, treat this with caution and use it with other indicators. There's no guarantee that two incorrect answers won't be very similar. If you're having trouble choosing the most correct answer between two choices, compare each of them with the course terminology. The correct answer should be the one that most accurately mimics it. Study the sentence structure of the question. Identify the subject and verb, and then identify the adjectives and adverbs. This approach helps you to determine whether you're looking for an answer in the form of an absolute. Aware of extraneous information not directly related to the question, try rephrasing the question without these distractors. Ask yourself if the answer you've selected requires an assumption. If the answer is yes, there is a very good chance that this isn't the correct choice. If the question appears to you to be a trick question, try reading the question and directions over again to eliminate any misunderstandings. Multiple choice exams do not use deception to encourage wrong answers. For my final tip, the exam contains 200 questions and you're allowed 4 hours to answer them, which means you've got 80 seconds to answer each question. So pace yourself and make sure you answer all 200 questions on the exam. These tips will help you maximize your exam score, but first you have to qualify to write the exam. There are criteria you must meet that deal with education and experience. There is also a criteria that you take a project management course that offers at least 35 hours of classroom time or self-directed study. 3.0 offers both a classroom course that provides the 35 hours of classroom time and a software training product that also satisfies this PMI requirement. The classroom course also includes a software product ACET, which is essential for exam preparation. 3.0 is certified as a registered education provider by the PMI, which is your guarantee of quality for project management training providers.